Hey everybody, we have a super exciting race coming up. This is going to be Brian Reynolds going after the double amputee world record in the 5K. World record is 16:49. Crazy pace. We are going to be bringing you that in just a minute. Full disclosure, this race was recorded this morning. It's Friday, September 11th right now, and we are bringing it to you on a little bit of a tape delay, but we've got a great program. We've got David Krupa, the co-founder of the Range of Motion Project, which is the organization that this race is benefiting. And then we'll have an interview with Brian at the end. So thanks for being here. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. Hello, everyone. We are here to bring you Brian Reynolds' world record attempt at 5K. I'm here with David Krupa of the Range of Motion Project. I'm Tyler Andrews. I am the founder of Chosky Endurance Collective. David, thank you so much for being here with us. Do you want to go ahead and give yourself a little introduction?
Sure. Yeah, good to see you, Tyler. So I'm connecting with you from Quito, Ecuador, where I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person periodically over the last few years when you're down here training. And I am I'm actually an amputee myself. I've been using a prosthesis below the knee on my left leg since I'm about a year and a half old. That inspired me to pursue the career of prosthetics. So I'm actually a prosthetist, nice tongue twister. So I design prosthetic limbs really to each individual and their needs, their desires. And then I build those prostheses. I fit them on people. I help my patients learn how to walk again, learn how to access their mobility, explore it, and in some cases run, sometimes for the first time. I don't want to say I'm a runner because I'm not really a runner. I do run with my prosthesis, and I've done a few things that I'm proud of having done. I don't know if I'll ever do them again, but I take my mobility pretty seriously. I try to enjoy it to the fullest extent. We've done hikes and climbs down here in Ecuador together. That's really my sport of choice. But yeah, pretty excited to see what Brian does. I had the opportunity to cross paths with him a few years ago at the Chicago Marathon, which was the one time I ran a full marathon, and was quite starstruck. All of a sudden, when he entered the room, there was a lot of murmuring and whispering, like, "That's the guy, that's the guy." I'm like, "What guy?" And they're like, "That guy over there. He's going to try to do the marathon in 3 hours." And I'm like, wow, I just want to finish, and I think it'll take me about 5 hours to do. So to look across the room and see a guy with two prostheses on, a double amputee, going after that particular goal of a 3 hour marathon run blew my mind. So it does not surprise me that he's teamed up with you guys and that he's attempting a world record at the 5K.
Yeah, so to give a little bit of background here, so as you can see on our little tracker, Brian is already off. He is a half mile into this 3.1 mile race, and I will be providing the kind of like running color commentary here. So Brian already has the world record for a double amputee for 5K, which is 16 minutes and 49 seconds. Now, if that sounds fast, it is. It's 5 minutes and 25 seconds per mile, or 3 minutes and 22 seconds per K. And you can see the little splits below us, or excuse me, the video clips below us where you'll see him running by. We do have a steady cam on the track where he is running. So he needs to be running about 81 seconds per lap, or 1 minute and 21 seconds per lap. And it looks like right now, if you see our live tracker, again, you can see the world record line right here. Here he comes again through about 3 minutes and 19 seconds through the first kilometer there. So he is under that world record pace. We can go down here and see his splits. It'll show us the pace. It'll show us the clock time. Super cool. We can also see exactly where he's running here in Brookdale, New Jersey, just north of New York City, and even the weather conditions there from our partners at Evening Run. So we can zoom in there and see where he is. But yeah, Brian is trying to set the world record, world best for 5 kilometers run by a double amputee. Now, Dave, I want to ask you, you say very humbly, I'm not a runner. I think you're a runner. If you run a marathon, you're a runner in my book. I mean, anyone who runs is a runner, first of all. But definitely, if you're running marathons and climbing mountains and stuff, you're a runner for sure, whether you like it or not. But tell us a little bit about what it's like to run specifically as an amputee. You work a lot with prostheses. So what is that experience like?
Yeah. So, you know, walking with a prosthesis, using a prosthesis, what's happening is that you're taking an inanimate object, a prosthesis, connecting it to the human body, and bearing weight, absorbing impact, and trying to keep this thing connected to the body. So there are a bunch of ways that we do that. And that sounds complicated enough when you're just trying to walk across the room. But the moment that you start running or doing high impact sports with the prostheses, a lot of things change. So in Brian's case, he's using very specific technologies that are designed exclusively for running. So you'll see his carbon fiber foot blades, which are literally layer upon layer of dozens of layers of carbon fiber weave pressed together under high pressure and saturated with a resin, and then that hardens and forms the carbon blade. And the blade itself is tapered in a way that there are certain parts of the blade that are thicker, certain parts like down near the toe that are thinner, and they're designed in a way to, with each impact, sort of deflect a little bit and compress. In that compression, a lot of energy is stored up, and then that energy is released as he comes off the toe. And so he's able to get some propulsion. There's a lot of discussion about whether someone running with a carbon fiber blade has some sort of advantage over an able-bodied runner, and that is just not the case. The second, in Brian's case, he has both of his legs amputated below the knee. He's lost a lot of muscle activity in the calf and all the muscles that are going to drive the flexion of his ankle. So when you're running, you're pushing off at the ankle. Yep. That generates a lot of additional power. So although the carbon fiber blade certainly will absorb impact and sort of return some of that energy, one, it's a mechanical component, so it's not 100% efficient. So it's actually losing some of the energy in the process. And two, you're not getting active propulsion. So he doesn't have any muscle contraction that as you're running normally, you'd be pushing off your toe and generating additional energy besides just sort of the spring that you get. From there, just thinking about what's happening like inside of his sockets, when I go for a run, the prosthesis is this rigid shell that attaches to the body. And is he coming around again here?
Yeah, we got 7:20 on the clock, so he's almost halfway there. He's still right at pace. He's running right around that 5:25 mile pace, 5:26 for the last 2 laps here. So he's right on pace right now. If you see the little avatar here, he's right on that world record line. So it's going to be close. It's going to be good. But anyways, let's go. So you're talking about the sockets.
Yeah, right. So with each impact, some of that impact is absorbed in the carbon fiber blade, but a lot of that impact gets transferred right up into his limbs. And the second that you cut through somebody's leg, you're cutting bone, you're cutting muscle, you're now left with this segment of body that does not naturally receive impact or weight. You can't just walk around on the ends of your cut limbs. It would just be terrible, right? So the socket has to be designed in a way to evenly distribute pressures across the remaining surface of his limb, and then uses a variety of soft materials. So the first thing he does is he puts on this like soft silicone type, what's called a liner, and that provides some protection to his limb, and that also adheres to his skin. And at the very bottom end of his liner, there's a little locking mechanism. It looks like a little pin. And in the bottom of his prosthesis, that pin sticks inside of a lock, and that's what holds the legs on. But imagine running at such a high speed, which he's blowing my mind, honestly, because I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, yeah, he just did 2.5 kilometers. I'm like, I just did one in that time.
Seriously,
But
yeah.
to keep up that pace, when your body temperature is going up, you're starting to sweat. That sweat is now kind of you're on your skin with inside the prosthesis. That can create some movement, some friction, some chafing. These are additional factors. If you think of running with shoes and what might happen like with blistering, kind of take that to the next level where you have an entire surface of your leg that is susceptible to all sorts of pressure points,
Ooh,
rubbing, chafing, blistering. In a shorter distance like this, it's probably not too much of a concern of his. But definitely, having done the marathon and knowing that he was keeping up this incredibly fast pace, I wondered because I definitely had to stop and drain out my own leg and empty out sweat and kind of dry and reapply. And I'm just that becomes a whole factor when trying to break records, right? That anything that you'd have to do to stop or slow down that's going to cause this like friction stuff is going to be
yeah.
problematic. So he's dealing with a whole variety of things, and surely his prostheses are dialed in quite precisely to make sure that he can keep up that kind of pace and impact for the time he does.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just want to give a quick update here from the race. We just passed 3K. Brian is just a smidge over 10 minutes. 10 minutes is the pace he's looking for, and we got him at 10:06. So he is right behind that pace. If he has a big last mile here, he can still do this. This is so exciting. He is going to definitely be one of the fastest times ever, if not the fastest time. He's still definitely within striking distance of that world record with, he's at 2 miles. He's just about a mile to go here. 2.1 now, so he's got a mile to go. He needs about a 5:30 last mile. Now, that is so fast, and it is crazy to see this happening. I personally, when I was, gosh, I mean, the sub 17 minute barrier, even that is really elite running. There are not a lot of people, as a recreational runner, even under 20 minutes is super impressive. So to see this, the speed that he's running these lap after lap is just unreal. And now looks like he is struggling a little bit. He's just slowed down to 5:40 for that last lap here. But hopefully he's got a little bit left in the tank to sneak back up towards that mark. This could be super close, so we'll definitely want to stay tuned. We've only got about less than 5 minutes of running left at this point. And we will see if he's able to get that world record. Now, Dave, I'm curious to hear from you as someone who's run. Do you think that as an amputee athlete, is a race like this where it's much shorter and faster, is that going to be easier or harder for someone than a race like a marathon?
I do think that the longer distances get a little more complex because of that the fit issues
Yeah.
that I already mentioned. Over extended periods of time, you have skin breakdown. It's much more common. I mean, just on a long hike, I'll also have it happen on my own limb. And during the marathon, when I finished, I had a lot of chafing and a lot of skin breakdown. The shorter distance, that it just the time you're out there might not be as much of a concern. But really, it's what's impressive about this is just that he's keeping up such a fast pace. His fitness level is incredible to be able to do that as any runner, really,
Yep.
amputee or non-amputee. And this is what's so inspirational about Brian. I mean, he's really demonstrating the power of the technology and obviously the training and the hours and hours and hours of training probably every day that he puts in. But the technology is also such a critical component here. I mean, without this specific type of technology, he'd be a fast runner, but he probably wouldn't be, reaching for world record times. And this is a major problem globally that I deal with. 9 out of 10 amputees around the world do not even have access to a basic prosthesis to walk.
Wow.
So how many people like Brian with lots of mobility goals and dreams and potential cannot even begin because they have zero access to prostheses, which is another really cool thing about what you guys have done with Chasky and with this particular race to help support some of our work in developing countries to bridge that gap in access to prosthetic care.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got just under a half mile left. Brian's at 14 and a half minutes into this race. He is a little bit behind that world record pace still. You can see that line is creeping ahead, but he is still on an unbelievable pace. You see down here his last few laps in the 540 per mile range. So still just a fantastic pace to be running in this race. You can see it's also a little bit warm, 70 degrees Fahrenheit here, again with our run score provided by Evening Run. So this is just a huge effort from Brian. I think it's also worth mentioning, and Dave, I don't know if you've ever done this, but Brian also just completed a cycling challenge a few weeks ago where he biked 300 miles in 3 days across, I want to say it was 3 states in the Midwest. So this is a guy who is out there putting in work, putting in a huge amount of training, like Dave said, in order to get the most out of his body. And we are going to see something really amazing here. He's got maybe 2 laps left here, or sorry, a little bit less than that, I guess, just about to the last 400 meters. We'll see when that last split comes in. But he is going to be really close. This is where the 5K really starts to hurt, is in that penultimate lap. You know you've still got a whole lap to go. There it is. And he did pick it up a little bit. He's back down to the 5:30s. So he is at 15 minutes and 46 seconds with a lap to go. So he definitely needs a big kick to get that world record, but he is still going to run super, super fast. Dave, what does it feel like for you just watching this happen? Like, does this just make you want to go out and run, or are you just like, this is too intimidating?
Actually, yeah, I did start running again a couple weeks ago. I took a bit of a hiatus, and I'm just training to do more climbing. I'm going to be doing a big climb down here tomorrow at Ruku Pichincha. But without a doubt, I will, the next time I'm out and I hit 3 minutes and 30 seconds, which is about what it takes him to run a kilometer. I'll take a look at my watch and see where I am and just put that in perspective to just get an appreciation to feel that appreciation physically of what it is that he's doing, which is so impressive and inspirational, and hopefully will inspire other amputees to get up and run, and maybe even to try to chase him down. That's the hope, right?
Absolutely. And here he comes. This is the finish. The clock just ticking past 17 minutes, 17:04:05. 17:05. Unbelievable. That is just about 5 minutes and 30 seconds a mile, about 3:25 per kilometer, something like that. That's what he ends up with. So not quite the world record that he hoped for, but still an unbelievable time. Definitely in the top few fastest times ever run by an amputee, just 15 seconds off that world record. Unbelievable run by Brian, incredibly inspiring. And you know what? I know Brian. I know he's going to want to take another crack at this. He wants that world record again. He wants that sub 16-minute 5K eventually, which is just unreal to think about. But absolutely incredible. Now, we will have Brian on in a little bit. Now, while I've got Dave here, I want to talk just a little bit more about Romp before we bring Brian on. So part of this was a big fundraiser for Romp, like you mentioned. We raised close to $1,000. This was a free event, but we allowed people to donate. We also had the auction, the Run with Brian auction, for some signed gear, opportunity to run on Brian's relay team. But talk a little bit about, what Romp can do with those kind of funds, and how far they can go down there in Ecuador and the surrounding areas.
Yeah, so Romp is we're a nonprofit organization. We've been fighting the good fight to create access to mobility for amputees, access to prosthetic care for 15 years, since 2005. And we work throughout the Americas in the U.S., Guatemala, Ecuador, and also treat patients in some of the surrounding countries to our main operational sites. since 2005, we've delivered just over 3,800 custom-made prosthetic devices to, kids, adults, and grandmas and grandpas, and a wide range of technologies, from very basic prostheses that allow people to get up and begin their rehab recently after amputation to running feet. We actually delivered in our Guatemala clinic in Zacapa, Guatemala, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, a running foot to a gentleman, Manuel, who had been asking us for a running foot for about the last 3 years, knowing that he had this potential to run, but was only able to run short distances on his everyday prosthesis. And being able to connect him with a donated running foot, which is what we do as an organization, is we run the largest prosthetics component recycling program in the US, call it Components for a Cause. And we have a network of close to 200 prosthetic facilities across the country where patients like Brian, when they are switching out to a new prosthesis, many times their old device is still, a lot of the components on that device are still very functional or are in really good shape. And we're able to break them apart and repurpose them and use them in the fabrication of brand new custom prostheses, incorporating these oftentimes really, really costly technologies that we're able to get to people, at an accessible price point. So with close to $1,000, we're a little over $1,000, we can provide someone with a prosthesis, and and follow-up services and maintenance and all the adjustments and things that go into it. I mean, if you think about Brian going out for a run, if he changes body weight, if anything happens in his training regimen that changes his body shape or size in any way, adjustments need to happen, and that's common for any amputee user. So as an organization, ROMP stands in solidarity with the millions of amputees around the world who cannot access prosthetic care. We're doing our part to make sure that people can access these devices and other rehabilitation services that allow them to live to their fullest human potential, to incorporate back into society, to be more active members of their families, their communities, to find jobs, to go back to school, and in some cases to enjoy the joy of sport, of running, of climbing, of biking, the things that many of us, and probably many of the people that are watching this right now, highly value. And to imagine all of a sudden to not be able to do that, to not be able to walk, to not be able to run, while knowing that there's this very tangible solution that exists. Prosthetic technology exists, the know-how, the techniques and clinical solutions that we incorporate in order to make sure that someone can rehabilitate after an amputation, all these things exist. We're not waiting for some sort of, the coronavirus vaccine. These are existing technologies and solutions. But there's great inequities in health around the world that are limiting a lot of people. So what I always wonder is, like, watching a guy like Brian is, amongst our population, I work with a lot of really young, otherwise very healthy men and women who've suffered an amputation, oftentimes from some sort of trauma, vehicle accidents, work accidents, things like that. I often wonder, how many other Brian Reynolds are out there, and all that they need is coaching and some very specific technology, and they could be inspiring their communities, and they could be showing the power of mobility and reminding the public health systems and the communities where they live why it's important to invest in the mobility of people with disabilities of all types, to invest in the amputees, and to get people up on their own 2 feet and out there again. Society's missing out on a lot when people are trapped by their disability. And Brian is showing us what it looks like when you're completely removed from that jail cell of what quote unquote disability it looks like, when you have access to all the the right tools and the right people that can help you get to this incredibly elite level of performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is certainly an elite among elites. Brian, he's an inspiration to me. I want to go out and run right now. Um,
You always
and
want to go out and run.
that's true, yeah. But no, I mean, I think, like you said, it's all about access, and that's why I've been such a long time supporter of the work that you guys do. Like you said, this isn't a development issue. This is just an access issue. The
Yep.
solution is there. It's just we gotta get these parts to people. Like you said, it's 9 out of 10 amputees. Is that what you said? Do not have access to a prosthesis. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, and in the Americas alone, there are about 10 million amputees in total. And kind of, to think that of those 10 million people, a significant majority of them don't have access to a prosthesis. It blows my mind. It was a great inspiration to me, why I was one of the co-founders of ROM and the work that we're doing, trying to play our part here in changing the reality of people living with limb loss.
Yep.
Because with our interconnectedness now and with access to information, I can't tell you how many of my patients have seen things like Brian Reynolds running, or have seen videos of people dancing with prostheses on, and come in and say, hey, I want to walk again, but also, have you seen this? How can I do this? How can I run again? So to just think of like having these things dangled in front of you on YouTube, and on Facebook, and just checking out people's Instagram pages, but then because of the way the world is, you can't get even the most basic of technologies. I mean, talk about frustrating.
Yeah.
Running at least is one of those sports that almost everyone can access. You
Yeah.
don't even need a pair of shoes to go for a run in some cases. But how many other sports are we all doing that we can't do? You can't go for a bike ride without a bike.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to be a part of your guys' project, to know that Brian's own run has been converted. His own efforts in mobility are now going to be converted into mobility for somebody else.
Yeah.
And we will definitely be sharing this stuff with our patients and telling them, especially the athletes that I work with, just so that they're on the up and up of what's happening, because these are the ways that people get inspired to push themselves harder and question the boundaries of their own limitations.
Absolutely. Now, last thing, if people want to support Range of Motion Project Rump, what's the best way to do that? Do you guys have a website? How do people follow you? Let everybody know.
Yeah. Well, visit our website, rompglobal.org. All of our social media handles are at rompglobal. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, recently on TikTok as a mobility organization. I guess it's fun when we're getting people up and dancing. But at Romp Global, Romp, ROMP, Range of Motion Project. But we're mostly now known as Romp, which I love, because in Spanish, romp is kind of part of the word romper, which means to break. And ultimately, that's what Romp is trying to do. We're trying to break some of the existing systems and paradigms, break some of the concepts that people have in their head about what disability means, what being an amputee means, and trying to show them new ways, and trying to create models for clinical care and access that can replace what we very much view as broken systems that are not taking care of our brothers and sisters that are living with limb loss.
Okay, you heard it. rompglobal.org if you want to give. Also, if you are part of the Chosky Challenge, all of our proceeds from the 5K race, if you buy any swag, if you buy a race medal, anything like that, all of that goes directly to Romp as well. Romp is a 501c3 nonprofit, so if you donate directly to them, it is a tax-deductible donation as well. It's worth mentioning. But we are so grateful. Thank you so much, Dave Krupa, for being here, co-founder of the Range of Motion Project. We will definitely be in touch, and congrats again to Brian. Stick around. We will have a short interview with him coming up right here on the broadcast, so stay tuned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tyler. Say hi to Brian for me.
I will.
Thank you, everyone that supported, and keep running, guys.
Yep. Stay active, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
We are here joined by the man, the legend himself, Brian Reynolds. It's been a few hours now. We are not 100% live, but we've got you. You put in a day of work here already. Incredible. So psyched to be talking to you after your run this morning. So first, like, how are you feeling now? I'm amazed that you ran this race and then are able to go and just like work a shift. It's incredible. But how are you feeling right now?
Physically, I feel pretty good. I'm used to putting in a lot more volume than a 5K, being used to the marathon training stuff. So physically, I'm fine.
Yeah. And now, before we get into the race, you mentioned marathon training. Is it true that you are running the Boston Marathon virtual marathon? What is it, tomorrow or this weekend?
Yeah, tomorrow morning. Gonna get out
God.
there at 7:30 and go for it.
Unbelievable. Incredible. Okay. So I do want to go talk through the specifics of the race. One of the things, first of all, Dave Krupa of Rump says hi. He said he met you at the Chicago Marathon and talked to you for like 30 seconds and that he was like really intimidated because you're like a rock star among runners. He was like, oh my gosh, that's Brian Reynolds. But he said to say hello. He was totally inspired, as were many of us. So I guess walk us through the race a little bit. I would say your lead up to this race was a little bit unusual in that you had a 300-mile multi-day bike event. So I guess take us through the preparation first. Like, what was that like, and what was your kind of headspace going into this?
I've never trained for a 5K before, so it was definitely different from a training perspective than I've ever been used to. I'm certainly not used to being on the track so much, maybe once every other week. So track workouts 2 times a week was quite different for me. But yeah, in the middle of it, I was part of a cross-country relay for Athletic Brewing. So I actually rode from Cleveland, Ohio to Chicago.
Wow.
Which was just about 340 miles over 3 days.
Wow.
And that was only just a month ago, actually, today.
Wow.
So that was definitely an interruption in the training not too many weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not terribly achy from it, but I still definitely feel aches here and there from it.
Sure.
But this was definitely different from other races, and then with all the COVID fun, I had to plan out all the logistics myself.
Yeah.
From finding tracks to timing companies and working out the pacer situation and stuff. And then after we had a track booked, the track canceled on us with only a week left. And then pacers dropped out last night. So
Yep.
I can't figure out if my mental stress was over the race or the logistics or everything put together. But mentally, I was just not feeling anything to do with today.
Yeah, but you know what? You went for it. We were tracking your splits pretty carefully. It looked like you went out right about world record pace. You were right about there through, I think, around 3K, like 10:06, like right, just a couple seconds behind at that point. What were you thinking at that point in the race? Was it, just hang on? Did you feel like you were slowing down a little bit, or were you trying to conserve a little bit of energy for a big kick at that point?
From a physical standpoint, I wasn't even remotely bothered by the speed at all. I've been having trouble breathing. I don't know if I'm just not used to the speed. Everybody told me it was humid out today. I don't know if it was actually that humid or if they were just trying to make me feel good, but I've been struggling to get my breathing down at the faster speeds now for a few weeks. So I was definitely puffing like a locomotive at that point. Even though my body didn't feel overly taxed, I think I came through 2 miles at 10:38, which was pretty much right where I
Yeah.
wanted to be. It was somewhere right around there. My
Yep.
Garmin might have been slightly different than the splits, so
Yeah.
like you said, I was pretty close, but
Yeah.
I was just fading in that last mile, and
Yeah.
no, I
I
could
could
not get myself moving anymore.
I could see it. I could like I've been there. I've run so many 5Ks. It's like I know the feeling where you get to that 3K 2 mile point and you're like, there's like it's so little, but it feels like so much is left, and you just start to lose a couple seconds, and it's just the 5K is such a hard distance like that it just
Yeah.
it on paper you're like it's not that long, but then you get into that last mile and a half or so, and it's just it feels very very long in the moment. So
Yeah, I think in that last mile, lap 2 and 3, I think I hit like 83 and 84 seconds back to back, and then I was a bit faster in that final 400, but not
yeah.
even remotely fast enough.
Yeah, no, you definitely picked it up. I think it was the last two laps were accelerating, and it's awesome to see that. But yeah, 17:05, still unbelievably good time, and like you and I were just talking about beforehand. I know your personality. You're probably already thinking to like, okay, when can we do this again? So like, is that
Yes.
on your radar? Do you want to give it another go? Will we see you take another crack at this?
Oh yeah. I definitely just need to race more in general, so I'm just gonna keep going until now. I'm just gonna set up stuff for a few times every month.
Awesome.
Just
Yeah.
keep going at it. I'll give myself a week's rest after running the marathon tomorrow, and then get back going again. I've actually never raced on the track before, so this was the first time ever.
Cool. Well, it's an experience, but it's I think you definitely did well for yourself out there. So, yeah, I guess any last messages you want to share before we let you sign off here?
I'm just super happy to be part of this event and having it benefit such a great organization, Range of Motion Project. So I hope everybody else enjoys the weekend and gets out there and races hard.
Awesome. We know you did. I know you inspired me, Brian. I'm going to go do my run in a bit here. I'm super stoked now. It's been amazing being a part of your journey. We're so grateful to have you part of this event as well. We will be 100% there next time you want to set this up. We will do it again. We'll give you another crack at it. We'll hopefully get some pacers out there for you this time.
We'll have you come out.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, next time I'm on the East Coast, dude. Once I get in shape. um, but seriously, thank you so much. It's been an honor being a part of your journey, your running journey. Have a great run tomorrow. Again, if you do want to support Range of Motion Project, you can donate directly. That's rompglobal.org. Or you can buy any of our Chosky merch. This week, it's all going to Romp, anything from the 5K. So that's your race medal, your t-shirt, anything else you want to buy on the Chosky site. It's all going to Romp this week. So chosky.run/merch. Check that out as well. Brian, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy and honor. And have a blast in your marathon tomorrow.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome.
All right. Have a good night, Brian, and sleep well before this big race. And
Yeah,
then get some rest.
exactly.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.